Well, flying with bags on Delta Airlines is about to cost you a little bit more. Starting tomorrow, the airline is increasing its checked baggage fees for tickets purchased on or after April 8th. That's marking the first hike in 2 years. A first checked bag will run you $45. That second bag will cost you $55, and a third jumps to $200. The higher fees apply to domestic and some short-haul international flights. Delta says it's responding to the higher fuel and operating costs. And right now, U.S. President Donald Trump has warned that a, quote, whole civilization will die tonight, end quote, but said Iran still has time to capitulate ahead of a deadline that is set for 8 p.m. in Washington.
President Trump issued this stark threat earlier this morning, about 12 hours ahead of his deadline for Iran to agree to a deal that includes reopening the Strait of Hormuz or face punishing strikes. Iran rejected a 45-day ceasefire proposal and said it wants a permanent end to the war as President Trump's ultimatum to make a deal ticked closer with an expected threat of strikes against the Islamic Republic to include all power plants and bridges.
Well, Atlanta native and former Migos rapper Offset is in the hospital recovering after being shot at a casino in Florida. The Seminole County Police Department say that shooting happened in the valet area of the Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino. This is in Hollywood, Florida. Police say 2 people have been detained. Authorities have charged 23-year-old Tian Merritt, known as rapper Lil TJ, with disorderly conduct. Investigators say that incident started as a fight. A representative for Offset telling Atlanta News First that the rapper is stable and is being monitored closely.
Now, First Alert weather with meteorologist Isaac Williams.
And it is a stunning Tuesday afternoon out there. Look at the downtown skyline. Not a cloud in the sky, and we expect it to stay that way over the remainder of the afternoon. Tomorrow, though, a high pressure area in the northeast is going to change around our wind direction to the north and east and even easterly, and that's going to bring in relatively much cooler air relative to what we're going to see later this afternoon, which is in the mid-70s. Right now on First Alert radar, we have some rain down over Florida. That's going to stay south of us. The high pressure is still in Michigan, but as it builds into the northeast, that's when the changes will begin to happen. I'll have a look at those temperatures through midweek, and I'll look at the updated pollen on the other side of the break.
Isaac, thank you. A new safe haven bill is closer to becoming law. Advocates say the baby boxes could save more lives in our state.
Dozens seen scattering away from a Georgia beach. Now police are looking for a possible gunman that caused this chaos.
And a local couple already heartbroken over their missing dog says scammers tried to cash in on their desperation.
Breaking news never stops. That's why you trust The Independent. Atlanta News First. Independent means we go live at any time.
I want you to take a look at this.
For your safety, first on the scene and first on your screen. Other stations answer to a network. We answer to Atlanta, so you know sooner.
Atlanta News First senior reporter Patrick Quinn is live from downtown Atlanta.
And we stay on as long as it takes. That's our standard. Atlanta News First. Independent. First for Atlanta.
Don't you just love home projects?
Going to the hardware store.
Getting your contractor to show up?
Going back to the hardware store.
So when I wanted new floors, I called the experts at 50 Floor. They brought the showroom to me. They quickly scheduled my install and finished the job in just 1 day. Amazing quality and service. Now that's what I really love. Schedule your free design consultation today at 50floor.com. Get 60% off plus free installation.
My Christian faith doesn't always give me answers, but it always gives me great hope. I'm Brad Raffensperger. Faith inspired me to be the best husband and father that I could be. It guided us as we started businesses and created hundreds of great jobs. And it sustained us when fentanyl took our son Brenton. My faith will always guide me as your next governor to make Georgia a safer, stronger, more affordable place to live.
Brad Raffensperger for governor.
Tune in.
I hope it's good news.
And get tuned in.
How about that?
On MeTV Tunes.
I gotta see this.
A growing collection of memorable characters.
We're the Ghostbusters. Ghost?
All drawn to one place.
But where is it?
On MeTV Tunes. Stay tuned.
I'm there!
Watch MeTV Tunes on over-the-air channel 50.5.
It's about time.
I had a true partner in my health. That my aches and pains aren't dismissed.
That my health needs aren't treated the same way
As mine.
With CenterWell Senior Primary Care, it's about time.
More one-on-one time.
Actually, 50% more time with my doctor.
So I can ask all my questions.
And get the answers I need.
Finally, I have a team of experts
Taking a proactive approach.
To help me be my healthiest.
Schedule a tour today. CenterWell. It's about time.
Whether you've been hurt in a car, motorcycle, or trucking accident, what you do next matters. Make sure to call Sweet James Accident Attorneys. Every month, my firm and I help hundreds of people get the medical treatment they need and the financial compensation they deserve, all without paying a dime out of pocket. Recently, 5 out of the top 50 settlements came from Sweet James. Call the firm awarded Best Attorneys in America. Call Sweet James.
Spend smarter, save faster, and stop living paycheck to paycheck.
With a daily update that pays off.
Getting by better weekdays on Atlanta News First.
And free on ANF Plus.
Look at that pollen count for solar meteorologist Isaac Williams here. The good news, over the weekend, we actually saw a decrease and a drop-off from really extreme numbers late last week. And then we saw a jump yesterday back up into the 1200s. But today's pollen count actually offering up some pretty good news. It's still considered high, but only 412. The tree pollen count still high, but the good news, that weed and mold count, which was extreme yesterday, back down into the moderate to low category. So some temporary improvement. Look ahead to the rest of the week's forecast with that Super 7 Day in just a few minutes.
All right, thank you, Isaac. Now to the chaos erupting on a Georgia beach over the weekend. People fleeing, running all over the place after what police say appeared to be a single gunshot fire. Tybee Island police say an unpermitted pop-up event was being held at the beach.